talk about the moon rhythm in reading some of your books. It's the moon rhythm, which is the cycle of life, and this deep connection that a woman has that a man doesn't. It's in the blood, with this deep understanding of life. And so you first have to familiarize yourself with that until it is completely like the breath, like the awareness. So your breath and the breath of the world are in harmony. And then something can be given through you into the world that can start its healing process. It can be given through your... Because there is always a part of the human being that never fully incarnates. For example, one of the things in our practice when we do the breath, we're told to be aware of the breath, and particularly the space between the in-breath and the out-breath. And if you watch your breath, there is this moment at the end of the in-breath, which is a moment of bliss. At the end of every in-breath, there is a moment of bliss, which is the moment the soul goes back to its own plane. Which is why, for example, they say that the last breath of a dying person is always an in-breath. The last gasp, the soul goes back to its own plane and it doesn't come back. So there is always part of the soul that never fully incarnates in this plane. And if there is a beautiful image of this, actually, it's in Jung's Memories, Dreams, Reflections, when he had this dream experience and he was walking down this little road in Switzerland and he came upon this roadside shrine. And he went in there, and in this little roadside shrine there was no cross, there was nothing. But there he saw this yogi in deep meditation. And he looked at the face of the yogi, and he saw the yogi's face was his face. And he was aware that if that yogi came out of meditation, he, Jung, would die. And that is the part of the spiritual being of everybody that remains outside this world. And this is traditionally, in most people's near-death experiences, this is actually the light they meet at the end of the tunnel. They say it's God because that is their nearest experience of God. It's not God. If you met God, there would be no tunnel, there would be nothing. God is so tremendous, so vast, so incomparable, beyond even our idea of the beyond. But that light is the light of your own divine essence, which is, for most people, their experience of God. That incredibly bright light that's there waiting for them. Most people reconnect with that after they die. In mystical practice, you die before you die, so you reconnect with that, you live that while in this body. But it never completely incarnates. And in that spiritual self, there is a certain energy that can help the evolution of the world. If you are, it is in a way, it has to do with the divine intention of creation. And when a human being is aligned with that and present in life, it can come through your spiritual body, so it remains outside of the cycle of creation. And this is very, very important, because it means it cannot be contaminated. Everything, the moment it hits the planes of creation, it is caught in the play of light and dark that belongs to creation. Even in the archetypal world, it isn't good and bad there, but there are shadows. But this that stays on the plane of the self. It is completely uncontaminated. It has to do with the real purity of the human being. And that light can be given through your spiritual centers directly into the spiritual energy structure of this planet. And it has in it both divine intention, but also the purpose. It's like Sandra was saying, there is awareness, but there is intention. And intention is a certain energy to make something happen. And the first thing it has to do is to clear certain blocks that exist in the energy field of the world before something can happen. Just as the same way as an individual transformation, you have to do a certain purification before a certain energy can flow through you. And then that's the first thing it can do. And it is, remember, it has divine intention and it is not contaminated. It is very, very pure. It is like quicksilver. It is like this alchemical thing. And it can go, I always say, it can go to places that other energy cannot go. Because it has this direct connection between the creator and the creation that is uncontaminated by the play of good and bad and free will and everything like that. And the first thing it do, there are certain places in the energy structure of the world that have become locked. And it can go there and it can take away, it can absorb certain impurities. And that is a work that's beginning to happen now. And then the next stage is for the energy to actually begin to... There are certain switches they exist in the spiritual structure of a human being, and they also exist in the spiritual structure of the world. And, for example, one of the reasons traditionally there comes a point when you need a spiritual master is you need somebody to turn those switches on inside of you that give you access to different frequencies of energy. And it's called, I suppose they call it now, opening the chakras. That was one of the Indian things. There's a lot of misunderstanding about that because you do not want them opened or awakened before you're ready, because you get flooded then with an energy you cannot contain. But just like there are in a human being, there are certain energy centers, and you can, if you know how to do it, it's a bit like flicking a switch, and then you give them access to a whole different energy they have latent within them. And it's exactly the same in the energy field of the world. That is why the world is not going to evolve linearly, because a human being does not evolve linearly, and we are the microcosm of the whole. A human being is, this person said, you wake up, says Satori, you wake up, and it's a whole different level of consciousness is given to you, because something flicked a switch. At a particular time in your evolution, a switch was flicked. And those exist, and there's one here in Northern California. It's actually quite a big switch. and it's actually one of the reasons that so many spiritual groups gravitated towards here, because they are waiting to participate in a certain spiritual awakening. But it has to be right. There has to be a certain balance. There has to be a certain harmony. There has to be a certain receptivity of consciousness to contain what is going to be given. Otherwise, the energy will just flow completely out of the energy field of this world, and it will go somewhere else, and then the moment will be lost. Is that enough for the moment?
So in journeying, intention is very important. So trying to just think of a intention for all of us to focus on together.
The heart of the world.
The heart of the world. We can journey to the heart of the world.
Is that okay?
Sure, why not? And we can journey to the heart of the world, and as we do that, embody our light. Okay?
Beautiful.
So those of you who know how to already work with the drum, you know what to do. For those of you who have never heard the drum, you can just let the drum carry you. The drum is seen to help the shaman alter his or her state of consciousness so that what we call the free soul can be freed from the container and the limitations of the ego and the physical body, and can journey into the invisible realms. So those of you who have never done any journeying before, you want to set an intention to allow the drum to take you into the heart of the world, and just see what happens. Sometimes in shamanism, less information is better. We let people have their own experience. So I'll drum for a few minutes, and when it's time to come back, because coming back is very important, okay?